Hi everyone, it's Katie. Hello, welcome to tonight's Facebook Live. I am joined tonight by two fabulous ladies, Rachel and Hannah. So let's all have a little wave, feel like we're on a TV show. Rachel and Hannah, give us a wave. Who's Rachel and who's Hannah? You need to introduce yourselves.
I'm Rachel.
And that'll be me, I'm Hannah.
Brilliant. So I have been following these two fabulous ladies on Instagram for a little while, quietly as a little lurker, just watching what they've been up to. And I got in touch with them because what they're doing is brilliant, and they are really passionate about job sharing, partly or mainly because they've done one. They've been in one for, how long were you in one for? 15 years or 10 years? How long were you in your job share for?
Well, 3 and counting, but we've known each other
3 years.
12, yeah.
So you've known each other for 12. So they've been HR directors, job sharing in a corporate. And there's so many people in the group who talk about job sharing and how we can make it more accessible. So what Hannah and Rachel are doing is they are on a mission basically to make job sharing much more accessible. So I wanted to bring them in to the group because I love what they're doing, and they're now working. They've set up a consultancy, and I'll let you guys tell everybody a little bit more. But I wanted tonight to kind of unpick job sharing, because I think that it feels not very accessible for people. So you'll find that a lot of people in the community, and we talk about it, enabling greater flexibility in the workplace, particularly for senior women who might want more work-life balance, and it's a great way for companies to embrace that. But it seems quite tricky in terms of finding a job share. One, are there many of them? And we'll talk about that. And then 2, the actual process of finding a partner and what you should look for is also, there's lots of elements that go into it, which I think make people feel like it's a bit tricky and prohibitive. So that's the kind of chat I wanted to have tonight. So I wanted to bring you guys in, which you know, and to ask you all those questions and just to get your sense of your insights and advice for people around kind of how to do it and how to make it work. So first of all, welcome. And I've kind of given you an intro, but it'd be great for you guys just to kick off with a bit more about your backgrounds, how you came to Job Share and what you're doing now.
Yeah, great. Oh, thanks so much, Katie. We're so happy to be here, and just kind of touching on your point, kind of what really drives us is our mission is really to make job sharing more accessible. That's exactly it. And I think that a lot of it is around job sharing isn't really known about because it's change, it's different. And I guess that when we started doing it, we felt a bit of a duty to kind of role model it and be able to tell people and share the fact that not only does it work, but it can work so brilliantly well. So the background to us is we met 12 years ago at work in a kind of corporate
I knew there was 12 years somewhere.
Yes, exactly. You know, you've done your research. And so we worked in the HR team. You know, we kind of grew up together in that organization. We worked really hard, we played really hard, and we worked through the ranks. We worked up to the role of HR director together. So prior to that position, I'd actually worked for Hannah. A role came up in her team. So we had a bit of experience of working together anyway, and we had a great working dynamic, and she was my senior, and she was such a brilliant manager and such a great person to work for. I ended up getting promoted to her level anyway, so moved on into a different role. And long story short, we ended up going to a work event and kind of sussed each other out that we weren't drinking, and shared very early doors that we were both pregnant, and worked out that we were 6 days apart due date wise. And at that point, we actually joked, oh, wouldn't it be fantastic if we came back as a job share? And when we were on maternity leave, we met up socially. And I guess we come to the point that a lot of people do, women particularly, where we were thinking, we've worked really hard, we're, you know, built up our experience, we love our role and love the value that we can add, but it's really high volume, really fast paced. And actually, if we remain as we are, will we see our children during the week? And actually, that's just not the kind of balance that we personally want. So we pitched our job share option to our boss, and actually we were offered both my role or Hannah's role when we kind of went through all the nuts and bolts of it. And at that point, we returned to work in a job share. We set up our Instagram, the Job Share Pare, as a hobby. You know, we knew that we were a rarity in our organisation of 4,000 people in the UK. We were the only job sharers.
Yeah.
So we wanted to use it as an opportunity to network with other people, to share best practice, and really just to explain to other women in our position that this is an option. You know, maybe kind of research it and have a look and make that. And we were going to do the pre-research to kind of help people in their journey. So it came to the end of last year, where we'd been in our organisations for 12 years, and we thought this kind of hobby has now become a real passion project, and we feel we've got so much more to say. So is now the time for us to leave the corporate world behind and set up on our own, to basically help embed job sharing within organisations and help to coach individuals to make it a success from day one. So gosh, that is a whistle stop, but I feel like it's War and Peace as well.
So just to round that up, then you worked in the job share for a number of years, and now you set up the Job Share Pare anyway as a means to connect. Just out of interest, did you connect with lots of different job sharers through how does that work? Who are you connected to? Are they all women? What kind of mix of people and organisations are you seeing as job sharers?
Sorry, yeah, I lost you there. I've lost you there a little bit, Katie, but I got the gauge of your question. So no, we share a lot of job share partnerships. We originally called it Work Wife Wednesday, and then we very quickly kind of made it just wider partnerships, because we find that it doesn't matter what kind of role or industry you're in. Yes, men are less prevalent in the kind of job sharing space, but there is a fantastic example of a male job share partnership at Aviva, who are really senior. And I guess another kind of myth to debunk a little is around that it's not just for those in childcare, you know, with a need for childcare. You know, you could job share just because you want to, just because the golf course is quieter on a Thursday, just for whatever reason it might be. It just enables a true kind of work-life balance that you can achieve.
So, I mean, I think that hearing your story, you know, you were known and trusted by your organisation, and you presented them with a package, which was a pair. They knew your work, they knew you, and they wanted probably to enable you to both come back, and it worked really well. Yeah. So I get that, and I think that you're really lucky in that sense that that's how that played out. What about people who aren't don't have a job share pair? They don't have a match. Is it more tricky? Talk us through a little bit about how that works and that process and that kind of how people move through that.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, Katie, 50% of job share partners know each other prior to being job sharers. So we were very fortunate that we knew how each other worked. We had that chemistry. But, 50% of people don't have that. And so there is a process to go through. And I think, the first thing is you've got to find that partner. And I think there are 3 ways where you can kind of look for that. So first of all, use your network. Think about, who in your world of work might also be in a similar position to you, might want to consider part-time working. And you'd be surprised, as soon as you start talking to people about job sharing, people raise their hand. And actually, I should mention, Rachel went on maternity leave 6 months before I did, and I job shared with somebody that I didn't know.
How was that?
6 months. Yeah, it was equally as successful. It was different. She wasn't my work wife. But I learned so much from her, and we really took the role along, I think, because we had very, very different skill sets, which worked really well. So use your network, and actually, flexible working people as a community is an amazing place to kind of start to open conversations about job sharing. We've got our Job Sharers Unite group as well, that people have talked about potentially job sharing with others in that group. Secondly, we are really fortunate these days to have flexible working specialists in recruitment. And we've actually, Rachel and myself, have had meetings with quite traditional recruitment agencies recently, who are, their clients are asking them more about how they get more of a diverse candidate pool, and so they're kind of looking for different ways around flexible working as well. And then thirdly, there's some amazing sort of intelligence and platforms coming up at the moment. So there's a matching platform called Role Share, who have some form of smart technology. It goes completely over my head, but they have some sort of technology that can match job share partners around finding the right skills, the right competencies that really marry up with each other. So there are ways, I guess, of looking for the partner. And equally, you know, sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, so I think that's really interesting, and that leads me. So I know there are all these different job share platforms, which leads me to my next question, which I think, you know, a lot of these platforms that operate are kind of scientific matches. So it's about complementary skill sets. And I think one of my questions was, if you're looking for job share and you're not going through an automated matching service, which is almost like a dating site, then, you know, and in your experience, should it be that two really complementary people, so you're literally getting, you know, two people with matching skills, or should it be, because some people say in a job share, actually it would be brilliant if I could have, you know, a creative, you know, strategic thinker over there and a detail orientated, you know, planner on the other side. So, and you put those two together, and my God, you've got the perfect person to half of the coin. So what's your sense there? Is it like when you're finding a match?
I would say that, yes, ideally you'd want people with different skill sets, but that complement each other. So it's more about how you actually get on as a partnership in a professional sense. So around kind of your approach to your work ethic, your approach to ownership, your approach to accountability, your ability to be able to not leave the lion's share away handover wise for your partner, and really kind of do the do on the day. So it's more about your ability to look at, we've got particular traits that we think are really important in a job share partnership to make it really successful. And actually, as long as you have those traits, then it doesn't really matter around the skill set. We would say that certainly the better of the two options is to have the two people with different skill sets that complement each other.
So when you're going to an employer and you're saying, so I think what I'm hearing here, because one of my other questions, just I'm trying to unpick all of this, is what comes first, the job share, the pair, or the job? And it sounds to me like 50%, well, you've said 50% already have a partner and 50 don't, but you're more likely to get a door open to a job, are you not, if you've got a job share partner already? So would you say recommendation, find your job share partner first and then apply for a job, or see a job share advertised and then go and find your partner, or kind of what's your advice around that?
I think it depends on the kind of how advanced the culture of the business is that you're looking at. So certainly from my point of view, and in the organization that we were at, if a recruiter was looking for a role and came across a CV that was a double CV, which is basically what we recommend if you are a job share partnership. And
okay, that's great. Let's talk about that after.
Then you know, as a recruiter, looking at the skills and abilities of two different people that they can apply to one role, you know, it takes away the whole, oh, but it's going to cost me a 1.2 FTE. You know, you can really see and feel the benefit that adds. If job sharing is completely alien and new to the organization, then it may be better for you to just apply as one person and raise that job sharing would be something that you're interested in. So it's more so how well received it would be within the organization, I would say.
But you can see, and obviously you guys are so involved in this, there's so many layers to all of this. And it's the same as, say, about flexibility. How do you negotiate it? Well, it depends. It depends on hiring manager, depends on the company, it depends on, you know, there's so many different layers, which is why it feels like quite a complex process. You've got to have a forward-thinking employer who's either advertising the job or open to it. I'm really interested for you just to talk a little bit about the double CV. So if you find your job share partner, which I also want to go back and talk about, because I still think how do you find a job share partner? But we'll come back to that. But let's talk about the double CV. So you're saying create a CV that sells you both as one. Tell me a little bit about that, because that's fascinating.
Exactly that. So one of our kind of guiding principles is unite as one always. So, you know, to be a success, that is what you need to do. So where we think a joint CV will impact is where you've got kind of key successes as a job share partnership. If you are a current job share partnership, moving roles. And then you can kind of talk about, you can have a section for your different but complementary skills as well. So, you know, Katie, you were talking about different skills. Rachel is definitely the more creative, innovative one for us. And I'm a bit more strategic. And so to your point, that's where we really work well with our clients. I think on if you're not a current job share partnership, but you're applying for a new role as a new job share partnership, you should still absolutely have your key successes at the top, because that is where the organization is going to see the benefit of two people in this one role. And that's really going to turn heads. And that is really the power of job sharing.
And your proudest moments in your careers, they will be two completely different things. You've got two different backgrounds, and like Hannah's point, I've got a degree in law, so the employment law side of things would always be kind of an additional bow to what we can offer. And Hannah's background prior to where we worked together was again totally different in the retail space. So it just marries up everything together. It makes you so much more attractive.
So talk to me, let's just get into the nitty-gritty, because again, I'm quite fascinated. So you've got an email called the Job Share Pair. At work, would you be the Job Share Pair, or would you be Hannah and Rachel? And how would people navigate that? So if you were in on a Monday, Tuesday, maybe you had a crossover on a Wednesday, like what's the practical aspect of this? How does it work? And do you both work on the same job and you just pick up where each other leave off, or do you both have different projects? Like, just let's talk it through, because it's interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so let's think about when we were in the corporate world. I would work on a Monday to Wednesday. Rachel would work Wednesday to Friday, and our crossover day was the Wednesday. So for us, that crossover day was key. Fortunately, our business moved things like our board meetings, key operational meetings to a Wednesday, so that we could both attend and both kind of, problem solve, make decisions, etc. In terms of one of the key things for a job share is getting that handover right. So I would always hand over to Rachel on a Tuesday evening. She would listen to it on a Wednesday morning on her way into work, so that, when she walked through that door, she would probably be accosted, as we all are, and she knew exactly what she needed to know on that morning. It was almost like she'd been there, my working days. And then similarly, she would hand over on a Friday as well. In terms of responsibility for the role, so in a pure job share, it is pure ownership, joint ownership for that role. So full accountability for the performance outputs, complete ownership of, your clients, your team, whatever goes with your role. And so we shared the management of our team as well. And we, in terms of projects, so this is an interesting one. So yeah, in terms of project work and casework, we would lead on certain things dependent on our skills, experiences. We'd really capitalize on certain things. Rachel said about the employment law. But if there were any sort of key decisions, really real strategic decisions, we would make those together. But day-to-day operational stuff, we would just completely trust each other to make that call. And, again, that's one of our principles as well. If you're in charge, you've got to trust that person to be in charge.
Mm-hmm. And how do you think that the company felt about it? So it worked for you. I'm just interested from the company's perspective. Were there times when they were frustrated, that they told you, we're building a perfect picture here, but there are going to be frustrations. There are going to be times when the handover wasn't perfect, or when you don't quite know the answer, or they said something to one of you, but it didn't make it in translation to the other. What are the disadvantages to the company or to the individuals? Because we've talked a lot about benefits, but it would just be interesting to understand them.
Yeah, so from our point of view, there are far less disadvantages. And yes, so there was a circumstance where very early in our job share, a senior person came over to our desk. It was on Hannah's working day, saying, "Where is this piece of work?" I sent it to Rachel, and it was very loud. It was in front of the stakeholders. You know, it had an immediate impact to our potential credibility. He then went, Hannah said she'd investigate it. He then went back to his desk and found that the email that he'd sent to me was in his drafts. And he very politely emailed Hannah to say, sorry about that, I can see it's in my drafts. And Hannah quite rightly said, can you come over and tell me loudly that that was your mistake? Because I'm not having, you know, our credibility being,
our reputation at stake.
Pulled through the, yeah, exactly, pulled through the mud in that way. So I think in that sense, because the onus is on the job share partnership to make it work, and you kind of self-manage in that way, it can be a really easy finger pointing opportunity to say, oh yeah, no, I told them. And genuinely, Katie, it sounds, you know, maybe unbelievable, but we found that we were the most proud and felt the most successful when people would say to us, oh, I can't remember who I told about this, but, and he would say, yeah, exactly, because it really doesn't.
This whole seamless nature of your role, you really did.
And shouldn't matter. Exactly.
Yin to your yang. I'm just, which is brilliant. And what you're describing is perfection. I'm just thinking about, it's like going on, a few bad dates and then choosing the right partner. Yeah. And what if you choose a bad partner and you end up, just in a bad job share because they're just not the right person for you?
Yeah.
And
the impact of that is quite big.
Yeah. Your focus is a lot of your questions focus on the logistics and the practicalities. And I think that's exactly where the idea for our business came, because although we can show another job share partnership exactly what worked for us, there isn't a really key formula until you know the underbelly and the operations of how the business works. So how we work with our job share partnership is we work with them for a full day and go through scenarios, we go through psychometrics, we go through everything that kind of could, might, and will probably happen, and kind of test them and say, how are you going to respond to this so that you're ready? And
so you coach job sharers?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's part of our offer, where we not only try and embed the cultural aspect within the organization, but we get job sharers fully ready. You know, when we started, we worked out how it could work for us through trial and error. And, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of kind of different ways of handing over. We started on an email, then we moved to a shared notebook, then we moved to voice memos plus a shared notebook, so that we could actually hear and see the actions and then talk about the confidential aspects of our role, which you're not going to want to write down. So in terms of the pitfalls for the business, you've got obvious things like there is an additional cost if you choose to have a crossover day with your partner, with your job share partnership. A crossover day isn't a deal breaker. It can, in our minds, it is important, and it really should be there if at all possible, because you're going to feel and reap the benefits of that kind of dual aspect.
So explain that to me, because I was trying to work that out. So if you've got a 5-day week and you're both doing 3, you both get paid for 3 days. They don't take the salary and just split it between you.
No, you should be working your pro rata full time. So it'll really be the cost of 120% of a person. And, I guess the other pitfall, and Hannah, obviously fill in where I've missed, and I'm sure there'll be things, but it's, there's an expectation and an onus on the job share partnership to make it work. But given the benefits that you feel as a job share partner to your work life, to the fact that your opportunity to burn out is so much less, the fact that you're, my getting involved on Hannah's work days is a huge disruptor. So it just forces me to switch off. In that sense, the expectation is on you, and you really take it on because it's a huge benefit to you as a person.
So, I mean, listen, I am totally pro job share, and I think that it could be game changing for the work landscape in terms of people creating better work-life balance. And I think that you've really helped tonight to explain kind of the inner workings of it. I feel like companies want to do it, but they're still reticent, and they still don't know how to do it. So I still feel like there's, challenges to really roll this out at scale.
But that's where we come in, Katie. This is
I know. And actually, as you said, the Facebook group, the flexible working community, there are people within the community who want to work in this way. And I think we have to work together to start to help them to identify partnerships and to also educate businesses and companies on how this can work, and that we can all work together to make this work and to really move the needle. But we don't see enough companies advertising job shares. We've heard of some of the barriers. It'd be interesting just to hear a little bit more from you on that, and what sense you're getting from companies that you're out talking to, and how can we get more companies to embrace job share?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think it all comes down to the fear of the unknown. Job sharing, whilst it's such a simple concept, is so alien in so many organizations. So, nobody likes change. Nobody likes making effort when they've got busy enough and hard enough jobs as it is.
It's just an effort, isn't it, to do it? You're like, I'd just rather hire one, not two, and just be done.
Exactly that. And so that is, to Rachel's point, that is really where we can come in. What we say is we embed job sharing in organizations. So give them all the tools they need to enable them to be successful from day dot with job shares. And, in times of change, in responding to the fear of the unknown, organizations need help. And it's the educating piece. We go to, we talk to so many prospective clients, and often they say, we'd be keen to work with you if we had a job share. And it's kind of getting past that barrier. So I think in terms of how we can get more companies to kind of, think about job sharing, there's a few things. First of all, we need storytellers. We need as many job sharers to be loud and proud about it, because if we're not, we're never going to get anywhere. We need to see examples of where job sharers are, really commercially impacting their business. So Rachel gave the example of the two males at Aviva. They are quite high profile job sharers. You've got Hilary Cross and Linda Thomas. They're the CEOs of Macmillan. They've really changed the way that Macmillan's run and operates. So yeah, we need people to be loud and proud. Secondly, we need enablers. And I think, Katy, you are a huge ally to us as job sharers. We need enablers like you to kind of give us a platform like this to talk about job sharing, to educate, to inform. We need high profile allies, and actually what's really interesting is where often you have a high profile senior job share partnership in an organization, they enable other people to job share in their team. And so you look at the Green Party, Sian Berry and Jonathan Bartley, they are co-heads of the Green Party, and in their executive, 5 out of 17 roles are shared, which it kind of embraces it. And I think finally, we need organizations to be the trailblazers. As soon as one organization in a certain sector opens the door to job sharing and sees the benefits, the other organizations in that sector are going to start to think, oh, that's interesting, I should try that. So we absolutely need trailblazers. We need
right now companies are looking, that's high on the agenda, is to drive better diversity and inclusion. It's high. So, and this is an incredibly powerful way to do that. So I think we just need to really help companies to understand, which is where you come in. And as you say, building allies, building the voice, keeping the conversation, building those proof points and case studies, which absolutely, I'm totally on board with this. So whatever we can do now as a partnership, and I'm really pleased to be connected with you guys together to start shifting that needle, because I think recruiters also have a big role to play, in that, they are influencers with their clients. And if they're always pushing the easy way out, which is just, make a placement, we're never going to move forward. And recruiters are renowned, sorry to say this, but for an easy life in terms of, filling a job and so on. Actually, they should be also pushing this to their clients. So there's all sorts of different people who can start to help to drive this conversation with companies.
I would actually add one very final thing, and this really only came through what we pitched yesterday to a corporate client, and they were saying, actually, I think the assumption is people don't approach us about this because they just assume we're going to say no. So let's kind of take a step back. Let's not assume that our businesses are going to say no. Let's kind of take on board the fact that we are talented, ambitious, committed, loyal, engaged people who have so much to offer, and the business wouldn't want to lose. And actually, let's kind of present ourselves in that way and see where we get to with that.
Well, that's a really powerful end to this, because I love that. Absolutely right. I think that have you got anything else that you can share with people? Because I think that we've touched the surface here tonight, and we've run half an hour and we've literally touched the surface. We've covered a lot, and I think people are going to have a much better insight now into what it means. I think they'll be going away, and I think some of the things that you've said, like, tap into your network. How do you find a partner? Use some of those platforms. Our job is to help, sort of push the companies more into being open to this, but to start to help people to think about how they can job share. But have you got any literature, or where you tell people where they can find you, follow you, get access so that you can maybe help them? That would be great.
Yeah, so I mean, the best way to find us is on Instagram. That's where all of our kind of information is. So we're at the Job Share Pare, and yeah, there's everything on there, from best practice to different couples to kind of it's more of an inspirational point so that you can really see where you can start. We're about to upload some free resources on our website, jobsharepare.com. Hannah mentioned we've got a Facebook group called Job Sharers Unite. If you're interested in job sharing, or you're looking potentially for a couple to match with, then find us there as well.
And also important to note that they're both members of the Facebook group. So if you've got any questions on job share, ask them in the group. Hannah and Rachel are both there and in it, and can definitely help and support, as well as going off to find them if you want to. All right, well, that was a brilliant session. I feel like there's a lot of work to still be done. But I'm feeling really positive that this is something that can really shift the game, shift the needle in terms of work-life balance, flexibility, and people having senior careers with people. It's just a matter of ironing out some of this stuff. And, and sometimes you do have to work harder, but if you want the end game, then actually, committing to something like this is going to get you there. So if you want your senior women in business back, or you want people who need to work flexibly and therefore need a job share, this is an incredible way to do it. So thank you, ladies, so much. And I know that we're going to carry on this conversation offline and hopefully do some more stuff together.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night. So thanks everyone for watching. If you've got any questions for Hannah or Rachel, I'm not going to cover them now because we've run over a bit, but drop them into the threads and we will all come in and answer any questions that you've got, or you can connect with them and we'll drop in their links too so that you can go and find them. All right, well, have a good night, everyone. Thanks so much, guys, for joining me.
Thanks, Katie.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.